Morning. I wanted to do a little short video discussing carburetor kits and carb rebuilds. I rebuild a few carburetors for people that's in our car club and stuff. We've got a lot of younger guys that start messing with classic cars, and they don't have a lot of experience working on carburetors. And I'm 57, so I've worked on, that's what I grew up working on in shop class and all in high school, so it's not new to me. I'm not saying I'm great at it, but I can get them running. But anyway, I wanted to look at and discuss the price difference in whether you're getting an Edelbrock or an AED or a Holley kit versus the cheapest that you can get directly out of China. A couple of the problems that I ran into, like this is out of an Edelbrock kit, and I won't have any problem with it. But, excuse me, stuff falling off my table here. Sometimes your needle and seat for the Holley, I've got to the point that if a customer brings me one of these kits, one of the things I do is take an X-Acto knife or a pick and check all around the surfaces here, because I've put these together and then had burrs of metal in here with the cheaper made ones that would cause problems, and I'd have to take the carburetor apart. So I've gotten to the point where I just deburr these to start with if they bring me a cheaper kit. And I usually keep some name brand, usually Holley ones in stock, in case I run into some that are so bad that I can't deburr them. But the price wise, the good kits, the AED today, and it's like July 3rd, I think, 2024. The AED kit off Amazon is $56. The Holley kit is $59, and the Edelbrock was in the same neighborhood. But you could get the Chinese kit for $20 to $25, and and that's not just with the kits for the Hollies. It's actually but another problem I've had other than this is these little rubber valves. I actually I keep a bag of those, because with these kits, I've gotten to the point I don't even try to use the ones that's in them, because about half the time they pull apart. And it's not a tear, they come apart like the rubber was just not fused together. Like whenever they're building them up, it's almost like it gets cold, and they'll come apart and there'll be a ball on the end whenever you're trying to pull them through. So I just don't use the rubber valves out of these kits at all. I just replace them with Hollies whenever I'm working on those. So you've got, worry about the needle and seat, you've got the rubber that I've had a problem with, and also just an assortment of random gaskets here. I've also noticed that if you take them apart, you think whenever you get these blue gaskets, you picture blue gaskets are usually the ones that don't stick. No, they stick just like any other cheap one. They just made them blue, I think, out of the cheaper kits. So if you can put rub some chapstick or something like that on them before you put them together, and that you get a little, that's probably a good idea with any gaskets in the carburetor, because it helps them release if you're taking the carburetor apart working on it. But a few tools that you might want to keep on your bench is a good pair of shears, an X-Acto knife, a good sharp X-Acto knife, because especially with the Edelbrock carburetors, if you're using a Chinese kit for an Edelbrock carburetor, the gaskets that go under where the boosters go in, the booster gaskets and all, I've had those so big they would be cut so oversized that you'd have to trim the whole thing down. It's not so much that the holes are in the wrong place, it's like the outside material is up to 50% bigger. So if you're not good with trimming little stuff down like that in detail work, you may want to just stick with a big one. Or if you don't have time to sit there and check everything going through these, after you do all that and you pay particular attention putting these together, they work fine most of the time. unless you have a needle and seat issue. But if if somebody wants one rebuilt and they're gonna let me supply the kit, I'm gonna buy at least an AED kit for it. That way, I can put it together in half the time. And you know that you're probably not going to have a problem. You're not going to have to tear everything back apart. You know that these little rubber valves aren't going to break when you're trying to pull them through, no matter how. If you chamfer the hole and put something lube on it and you pull it through there real easy, these still seem to break pretty often. So that's just a few things. If you're going to take the time to rebuild a carburetor, which if you've got a bad carburetor, it doesn't matter how the rest of your engine build, it's not gonna, if you got carb trouble, you're not getting the performance out of it. I would recommend, if you're not that familiar with them, to go ahead and spend the money on a good kit, like I said, a Holley or an Edelbrock or AED or some other, name brand kit. If you don't mind tinkering and fiddling with the parts to make them fit, then go ahead and get the Chinese kit. Like I said, I've got another one on the shelf there and that one there. I don't mind using those sometimes because it's relaxing to me to do this stuff. But if you're going into your first carburetor rebuild or something, I would recommend getting these, because a lot of times these will come with some at least basic instructions with them too. And if you're interested in carburetor rebuilding, I've got a Holley. I got this Holley manual here that I keep. I got that, I think, shortly after I got out of high school. Let's say I graduated back in '86. So somewhere through there, I got this one. This isn't I've probably already went through one or two of them. But it's just, sometimes they're good to read and good to have on hand. And it's not, if you're wanting to rebuild carburetors, it's probably not a bad idea to get one, because it'll definitely save you some frustration. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that. I mean, if you get real familiar with it, and you don't mind trimming gaskets to fit and deburring parts and buying some extra little small parts to replace what's junk in those kits, then they're fine. But if you're doing a production, you're already nervous about it, I'd go on and buy the good kit, so you don't have to, you don't want to get turned off on it and disgusted with it the first time you try to rebuild one. That's all I had on that, and y'all have a nice day.